Welcome to the I Hate Critics Movie Review Podcast. I'm professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Jeff.
Hey, everybody.
Tell people where they can get your art, Jeff.
JeffLassiter.com is my website, and you can get all my links there.
I saw that you posted some different art this week, some more personal style.
Oh, yeah, I found a box full of my old life drawing that I did when I lived in New York City and Chicago. So if you're into nude dudes, then hit me up and we'll work something out.
Very cool. Very cool. It's good looking stuff.
Thanks.
I mean, you've always been very talented, but sometimes it's nice to hear that, right?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. Occasionally.
Chris, we have a Facebook page that no one ever seems to update. I know that's on both of us for that, but we'll figure it out. Twitter at Podcast Sean, as well as, of course, the show Twitter, which does, at the very least, has the feed of the show going to it directly from YouTube and the podcasting apps. So Bob at least get that going for us. So, we're doing some professional things around here. And I'm on TikTok. I'm putting clips of the show on TikTok now, so you can check those out there by searching for I Hate Critics stuff on TikTok.
Nice.
All right. Let's just dive right into our topics. I want to talk about Apple. I saw the movie Wolves. Now, Jeff, are you aware of this movie? Or you were? I made you aware of it, I guess, earlier this week. But how much have you been aware of this since it was announced?
I heard a little bit about it, but I didn't hear where it was going to be or anything like that. So,
did you know that it came out in September?
No idea.
And this is a movie we're talking about that has Brad Pitt and George Clooney that someone spent $150 million to make. And then Apple released it without telling anybody.
Of course they did.
And I'm just desperate to understand what benefit there is for Apple to have a movie company at all if they're going to make movies and not tell anybody about it. This has got to be a scheme of some kind. There has to be a way that they're making money here, because otherwise, why are they doing it? They're a business. Don't they have stockholders they have to answer to when they have a $150 million movie that they just send straight to their streaming service and don't tell anybody about?
I mean, you would think so, but I mean, everybody knows that the original content on streaming is to drive people to your streaming service. But if you don't tell people, how are you supposed to drive any traffic there whatsoever?
On top of which, I just got an Apple product not that long ago, and they're like, here, have Apple TV. And I know it's a free trial, and I'll have to cancel it, and then if I don't, they'll make me pay for it. But still, I could go there and watch the thing that they just paid $150 million for and never purchase a subscription to their service. So where's the benefit to Apple in this?
I will still have no idea.
So it's got to be a scheme, right? There has to be something, some kind of Wall Street math here that the rest of the world doesn't get. There has to be, I don't know. It's not like I know what Warner Brothers is doing is a tax scheme. They put Batgirl and the Acme versus Coyote thing on the shelf, and they get a tax write-off for doing it. Apple released this. This is now available. You can go watch this right now. So this is a different kind of scheme. I just don't know what the scheme is.
Yeah, I wish I knew, because I would like to get in on that.
And it's not the first time, because they've got a Casey Affleck, Matt Damon movie that I don't think was as costly as Wolves. But they did the same thing with. They didn't put it in theaters. They put it on their streaming service in September without telling anyone. It's truly bizarre, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that one a couple months ago, and still I couldn't tell you the name of it.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I've literally just been looking into this, and the name of it escapes me, which is maybe part of the problem. But I know they did talk about on Deadline.com how putting out Wolves was maybe not something that they wanted to do because they didn't think it would be successful. At what point in the creation of a $150 million movie do you look at it and go, well, that's not going to make us any money. Let's just let's just put it on streaming and be done with it.
Yeah, all the Apple movies and things like that, you would expect to be released in theaters at least for a couple weeks. You know what I mean? Just to get at least to get the Oscar vote nailed down,
Right.
especially if you're doing it with these guys, you know.
And they could be advertising in places that I just don't see because I don't have terrestrial television. I don't have cable TV, but I've never seen an ad for Wolves on anything. So, I mean, it's a digital service. You figure as much digital, I mean, as much as like I'm on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok, at some point I'd see an ad telling me, hey, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Wolves on Apple TV. You know, you figure that would pop up somewhere. Especially when with my interests, you'd figure a movie ad would be targeted directly to me or to you for that matter. We both have this interest, and yet neither of us were aware of this.
Yeah, I can't imagine that your algorithm isn't going to show you as much movie stuff as it does me.
Exactly.
Um,
It doesn't make any sense. And this goes back a couple of years because Apple got into business. It was just pre-pandemic when they started their service. And one of the big things that they did was pick up Coda, and they paid $25 million at Sundance to get Coda. And it was the biggest deal in Sundance history. They made this huge splash, grabbing this very much buzzed about film, and then didn't tell anybody when they were going to put it out. And they just held it for months, and then it just kind of dribbled out, and the Oscar campaign started to build, and it went on to win Best Picture, and I'm sure they did somehow make money on that based off of their streaming service. But truly, it's just, why would you pay $25 million for something and then just, well, we'll throw it on the streaming service eventually? What is the angle? What is the scheme? If you're a business person, you're a Wall Street person listening to this show, I am dying to hear from you so you can explain what it is that Apple is doing. What is this strategy? Because it makes no sense.
yeah, please let us know.
All right, let's talk about movies that are actually available. Well, that one's actually available. I mean, but movies that seemingly have some intent behind them to be released and seen. Like the new Andrew Garfield, Florence Pugh movie, We Live in Time, which stars them as a couple in a relationship that spans from a lovely, meet cute to end one of their lives. It's a very
Spoiler alert.
You called it the Florence Pugh cancer movie, Jeff.
Well, it was advertised as the Florence Pugh cancer Oscar bait movie.
So this is a very lovely couple. We were watching their life unfold in various different chapters and telling you what happened. I think they tell you what happens pretty early on, so it's not. I don't think you can spoil this necessarily. This is a movie that's about the journey of getting there and how we end up there. And it's told out of time, out of sequence. We're bouncing around their relationship with seemingly no real reason. Like the motivation behind the shifts in time, I think are lacking. I think it feels more like a stylistic choice than it does feel like a dramatic choice, as much as it does add a little bit something to the build. And it is very stylish. This is a very good looking movie. I don't feel like the jumps around in time, I think oftentimes are a little bit confusing. You're leaving the audience out for a minute while we're going, wait, where are we in time now? Her hair looks like this, and she's pregnant here, so she's not pregnant here. Okay. You're having to do a lot of mental gymnastics that may be costing you a couple of moments of this movie while you're figuring out where we are in time.
Yeah, I think there is the scene, and I when we spoke about this before, I did mention the fact that I think that they did that specifically so that you would, because you understand that this is her second bout with cancer when they go to the doctor early on in the movie, and because of your previous diagnosis, we have to be more aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't really You're like, oh, okay, so she's had cancer before. Cool. Well, then later on, when they're talking about having a child, and he wants one, she doesn't know she does. And then when we go back in time to see the first bout with cancer, you understand that the reason she got cancer again is because she did not go the radical take the radical step of having both of her ovaries removed. She only wanted to have one removed so that you see she might actually have a baby with him later on.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that choice that she made before that we don't know about, that's why she has cancer again and why it's much more serious and she may die because of it. And the more I thought about it after we spoke before, I really think that is the conceit behind the whole time jumping around, is so that we get to know her and get to know her choices and how driven she is with her career. And then we find out that she's done this thing partially for him, but then, she would never change it. And that's the only thing I can think of that justifies the time jumping around. So
I don't think they could make the movie without this gimmick either, because otherwise, if you make it without this gimmick, then you don't really have much here.
yeah. I mean, ultimately, I don't know if it's successful or if it's, if it could have been a linear story and then we had that, that one scene where she's remembering the first bout with cancer. It could have just been a linear story, and then she's thinking back and she's like, do you remember what I told you before? And I feel like it's my fault that I'm going through this now because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I
mm-hmm.
feel like they could have done a pretty linear story, and then we get that surprise later. So
yeah, I do think this is I don't think this is a bad movie at all. I'm kind of dragging it a little
really
bit,
good.
but I think I did like these two characters a lot. I liked a lot of the choices that they made. I thought the birthing scene is one of the best scenes of the year, honestly. I'm talking about one of the best scenes of any movie this year, because the extras in the scene, the two people who work at this gas station where she's giving birth, the setup to the scene is strong. The scene itself, the execution of the scene with Andrew Garfield delivering the baby, and you've got those two wonderful extras in that scene who are not stealing focus. They're not making the scene about themselves. They're just very very kind, very supportive people who are in this very unusual situation that is both dramatic and comical at the same time. And the way that they bring together all the emotional and comedic elements in that scene is incredibly strong.
Yeah, they really, really do. They steal that one moment, but they don't steal the whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
So
I liked them a lot, and I thought that was a terrific scene. I also liked their daughter. She's not she's like, what, 4 years old. You can't criticize her acting, but she's like she's very, very present. Unlike a lot of child actors her age, she has a good presence to her, and she looks as if she could be the result of a marriage between Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, very much so.
So they're written, and stylistically, like, it's a good looking movie. It has a very distinct style to it. It does feel a little bit gauzy, but not in that Lifetime sort of way. I love the lighting in all of these scenes. I like the set dressing. It feels familiar, but also slightly elevated. It doesn't look like a home and garden presentation, but it does look stylish enough to match these two personalities.
Yeah, that's a very, very good way to put it. I just, you get so much from little subtle moments that the director adds with each of them too, that really kind of spoke to me, I guess, if you want to be a weirdo about it. But yeah, I think very, very, very good movie.
I loved Florence Pugh's energy. I thought she captured the energy of a chef, of a very accomplished chef. I don't know many chefs, but the chefs I've met on TV seem to have a similar sort of drive and attitude, but also qualities of leadership. She she's very sharp. She's very on point, and she expects people to be on point. And I thought she created a very distinct character.
Oh yeah, and Florence Pugh loves to cook. That's what she did during the pandemic. She would cook on Instagram, and that's kind of how I mean, I love her as an actor. One of my favorites. She's right up there in the like my top 5 right now. But I don't follow many celebrities on Instagram, but I followed her because of her cooking videos where she would just cook and talk to the camera at the same time, and she loves it. So I really got that from her playing the chef. So
I also felt like, again, to go back to the side of why this isn't a truly great movie, I don't think thematically some things work. They layer in a thing about figure skating that didn't quite land with me, especially when it comes to the end of the movie and what that's supposed to mean at the end of the movie. It felt very odd. It felt a very odd way to bring that particular theme to a close, whatever that theme was intended to be. And there was also an ongoing thing about the correct way to crack an egg, which, again, I don't feel like it was layered in enough to make it as meaningful to us as it appeared to be to them.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a bridge from her to Andrew Garfield to their daughter, bonding thing, maybe. But yeah, it just didn't. I mean, I was like, okay, that's cute, but it didn't really have any as much resonance as I think they put on it in the movie to me. Because I honestly, I was like, okay, we don't know anything. Is she going to survive, or is she really saying goodbye in that ice skating scene? And then you realize, okay, yeah, she's really dead. But they just don't show it, and which is fine. You don't need to. You're telling us through visuals and stuff like that, but I kept wondering if she was going to walk through the door and be like, "Oh, I'm back from work," and "Oh, you guys have already started cooking without me," and all that. So,
well, and it's very curious because, like, the scene at the skating rink is like she goes to one side of the rink, and Andrew Garfield and their daughter are on the other side of the rink, and they're waving to each other. They're waving like they're saying goodbye, but they're not leaving her at the skating rink. she's not going to stay at the skating rink and just die there on the ice. They're all going to go home together. So I'm not sure why we're all waving goodbye to each other at this skating rink. It was a very odd choice to have that be the final moment for Florence Pugh's character. It was a very strange choice, on top of which an earlier scene setting up the whole figure skating thing. She used to be a figure skater, and it was something that her and her father had as a thing together. She seemed almost dismissive of that as being important to who she is, because she's a chef now. She's a cook now, and that's not part of her life anymore. And we don't know anything about her dad other than the story that we're told very briefly about how they were together in terms of figure skating, and the fact that he's not there. I don't think we have any deeper resonance with who her father was and what their relationship was, and thus the figure skating thing doesn't mean as much again. And the movie puts a lot of emphasis on it. It's her final scene. It's the last place where she's going to be. That should have a little bit more, as much resonance to them as it does to us. That should mean a lot to all of us. We're all in this movie in that way, and for that to not land, it does take a lot of the emotional impact of the movie away.
Yeah, I agree. I think because it was so well acted and everything, that it was just a little disappointing that we didn't get a more than just a goodbye. We didn't get the actual, "Oh, this is it" kind of thing. And I really was kind of hoping for that. So
yeah. I was thinking about this earlier, and this is a complete left field concept, but it was just something that occurred to me as I was listening to another podcast. I was listening to this song by George Jones called "He Stopped Loving Her Today." And the way that song tells you that this man is dead is there's a line in the song where he said he loved her till he died. And then it says he stopped loving her today, which is them saying that he died today. And they tell you he died without telling you. And that is great storytelling. That is tremendous storytelling, to be able to communicate a very big idea without actually saying the idea. And I think that's what was needed here, was a way to communicate the idea that she has passed without having to, put us in the room in the hospital as the, as that cliched scene where the line goes dead and you hear that instead of the heartbeat. That's a cliched scene. We don't need that here. That's not this movie. There had to be a much more poetic way to tell us that she passed away without that awkward skating scene. I think you can cut the figure skating thing out completely and just have her cook with her daughter. And then, like, at the end, it's just him and his daughter cracking an egg.
Yeah.
And, like, that tells you, oh, she's not here to do that. She's gone. That's much more poetic.
Yeah, there's lots of ways that they could have ended it that they didn't. So I don't know. Just it was a really good movie, and up until that ambiguous ending, I really enjoyed it.
I feel like the figure skating thing was something that was in an earlier draft of the screenplay that they just left in and felt that they had to resolve, as opposed to something that needed to be there.
Yeah. A metaphor.
Because she's dead and cold.
Exactly.
Awful and terrible person. This is a good movie. Go see this movie. Florence Pugh, Andrew Garfield are very good. The movie looks good. There's one really, really, really great scene in it. That's enough. Go see the movie.
Yeah.
Judge for yourself. It's not going to be at a top 10 or top 20 at the end of the year, but it's good.
You think it'll get her an Oscar nomination like she clearly wanted?
I think that's a much more harsh criticism of this movie than anything I said.
Well, I mean, it's Oscar bait. All cancer movies are Oscar bait. I'm sorry. As much as I love Florence Pugh. You have no idea how much I love her. But cancer movies are Oscar bait. So,
all right.
Anyway,
I don't want to assign such an ill motivation to this movie, but that's fine. I understand where you're coming from. What else is there to talk about this week? Was it Smile, right?
Well, yep.
We'll talk about, first of all, before we get into the Smile 2 of it all, what was your experience with the first Smile movie?
I enjoyed it. I thought Sosie Bacon was great in it. But between her and Kyle Gallner, I completely recommended it. It was creepy. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was one of my movies that I really liked, and I thought this is a perfectly self-contained story. Smash cut to, hey, there's a Smile 2 coming out.
Yeah, I you know what the weird thing is about the premise? I was bothered by the premise of Smile, the original one, because it felt a lot like The Bye-Bye Man. Did you see The Bye-Bye Man?
I did not.
So The Bye-Bye Man, the premise of The Bye-Bye Man is that if you remember the Bye-Bye Man, that's how he's going to kill you. And as long as nobody remembers him, he's like dormant and he can't touch you.
Oh, so it's like Freddy versus Jason.
I kind of, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of, yeah. I guess because you remember Freddy, he gets to come back. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, nobody remembers Freddy because they've stopped the kids from dreaming. So he can't come back. So he gets Jason to start killing so they think it's Freddy.
But the Bye-Bye Man is a very silly, very bad movie. But it begins with Lee Wanell playing a character who is murdering everybody around him who knows about the Bye-Bye Man, because he's come up with the only way to stop the Bye-Bye Man is to murder anybody he's ever told about it. And so that's what he starts doing. He starts killing a lot of people. But what he's missed, and he kills himself as well, obviously, because he remembers the Bye-Bye Man, and as long as somebody does, there's a chance he can, continue to come back. So he kills himself at the end of the scene, but he's forgotten that someone has written the name Bye-Bye Man in a dresser drawer that is under some parchment paper, and when that parchment paper gets moved like 30 years later, then the Bye-Bye Man returns. And the idea behind Smile is that if you can find somebody to continuously transfer this curse to, you can escape it. But Zoe Bacon's idea at the end was to kill herself. And as long as there was no one around to transfer the curse to, then seemingly the curse would end. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Gallner shows up and, of course, takes the curse on. Like a fucking dumbass. So that's the premise of Smile going into Smile 2, starring Naomi Scott and the same director. And there's so many good things about this movie. Like, I think Naomi Scott is exceptional in this film. I thought she just delivered every moment, which made the ending of the movie really the biggest issue for me. There's a character who is he is plot convenience. That should call him plot convenience, because did that character exist in the first movie? I'm talking about Peter Jacobson's character. Did he exist before, or is this an invention for this movie?
I believe it's an invention for this movie, because I do not remember him from the first one at all. So
Peter Jacobson plays a guy who claims that his brother killed himself because of the Smile demon, and he's since then tracked this demon to people from his brother to the next person to the next person, and through, again, only the convenience of continuing this plot, he's able to track it to the friend of this pop star played by Naomi Scott. This friend, Lewis, it happens to see Kyle Gallner's character trying to pass this curse on to two other drug dealers, and when Kyle Gallner's character transfers the curse, he transfers it to Lewis. Lewis transfers it to Naomi, or to the Skye, whatever her name is, Skye Riley. Transfers it to her via his death. Peter Jacobson somehow is able to get her phone number and is able to contact her via vague text messages to pitch her the idea of how he thinks they can stop the demon. But the whole premise of this is that she's so crazy that he may not even exist. So is this maybe the demon just telling her that this is a way out just to fool her? I don't know. That's the problem, is that the foundation of the entire Smile franchise is built on this unreliable narrator that is leading you to an ending that is so like inescapable that it feels pointless to even have bothered caring about this character.
I don't know. See, I don't see it that way. I mean, I figure everything that happened to her in the last probably 20 minutes of the movie was just inside her head. Also, shout out to Dylan Galula, who plays Gemma. Did you watch The Unbreakables, Kimmy Schmidt?
Yeah, I love that show.
Yeah, she plays Xanthopy Voorhees, which is one of the best names in history. And every time I read or listen to a book about a disaffected teenager, that's exactly who I think of. And when I saw the picture of her on the phone, I was like, is that Dylan Galula? I love her. And it was, and I was like, oh, thank you. But that, from the second she wakes up in that facility, I feel like everything that has happened up to that point was real, but everything after that was just in her head because the demon has succeeded in making her crazy. I don't think I think that the fact that they were going to be able to stop her heart and actually stop this from manifesting and killing her and everybody else is in her head, because it's the only way she can get up on stage and do what she does.
Well, except that she doesn't have any of this information. She doesn't have any information about what this is. She doesn't know she doesn't even know she's being played by a demon until Peter Jacobson explains it to her. But
again, when you asked if that's a demon, I think the demon is finally telling her what's going on.
So the demon is telling her that this is... I find that
there's nothing she can do about it. There's literally, once you're infected with this, there's nothing you can do about it. And then, so the demon can do pretty much whatever it wants.
So then why do I care if the demon is going to win no matter what?
I don't know.
Okay, then. There's no reason to care. There's no hope. There's no beating it. There's no defeating this. So why invest anything in this?
I enjoyed the performance. I thought,
I love the performance too. I thought she was fantastic, and I think stylistically, I thought she felt like a real pop star. I was really impressed by that.
mm-hmm.
I wanted to root for this character, and maybe she comes up short, but I wanted it to at least feel like we were watching someone who had a chance. And then for the movie to pull that and say, no, there was never any hope. Then why did I even bother?
Well, you were with her though the whole time. I I think it's more about the journey than it is about the end of it. I think she may, she does talk to Peter Jacobson, and then they're going to arrange to meet. So maybe there is hope, but the demon has gotten her before she can get to the hope again.
Yeah, I don't know. But then it's the whole thing is so vague on that point that we don't know where reality is. I mean, her best friend didn't exist at all. Like, she never spoke to that friend. Dylan Glue never spoke to her, not one time. Anytime she interacted with that person, it was the demon. So determining at what point she went completely nuts is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I that's a thread I didn't feel I needed to pull while I was watching it. I was so invested in watching her kind of descend into madness, because look, what Sosie Bacon did in the last movie was just be an intrepid, we're gonna find out what's going on. We're gonna get this, and then goes to investigate at the house, the last place where it took place, and she confronts it, and it ultimately gets her. Whereas this got her, I think, because she was in such a fragile mental state, it got her way earlier than it ever got Sosie Bacon, or maybe any of the other people that it came in contact with.
I have this thing, and I think I've talked about it with you before. I know I've talked about it on the show before. This thing I call odds stacking, and that is when you've got a protagonist who's up against some seemingly inimitable force that seems undefeatable. If you stack the odds so high that it seems impossible for the characters to succeed, I lose interest. And I've seen this happen in way too many movies where they overpower the thing that is the big bad, to the point where, like, there's no way this person under these circumstances could beat this thing. And that to me is it's such a failure of so many movies like this. And it definitely it took away my personal emotional investment into the movie, knowing that there was actually no hope.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about no hope, let's talk about the ending, because the fact that thousands of people are watching her do this to herself,
yeah,
now they're all infected. That's where I'm like, oh, that's where the hope goes to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the next movie has to be like 28 days later or something.
Yeah, it would have to be. But I had hope the whole time until I heard, start to hear the crunching of her impaling her head with the microphone.
Now, my hope ended when she appeared on stage. When the demon basically told her what was going on, I was like, oh, never mind then. Why'd I bother?
But again, I don't, why did I bother? You could say that about you could say that about the Florence Pugh cancer movie. Oh, she's died. Why did I bother?
Not really. No, because it wasn't necessarily about the hope. It was about those two characters and their journey. And this one, as much as it might be about her journey, having hope that she might survive it, it feels like it's a narrative cheat, essentially, to have such an unreliable narrator. Unreliable narrators can be great, but at the same time, if you use that as such a crutch to set up, because you have to get to a particular ending, it feels more like a cheat than it does an actual, like, narrative unfolding.
I get it.
I think they wanted that ending that you talked about before with her in front of the audience. I think they wanted that ending, and they were going to do anything to get there. and that meant compromising everything that was great about Naomi Scott's performance.
I don't think that, I seemingly liked it a lot more than you did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I was with it the whole way. And even knowing that there's really no way to escape this demon without, giving it to somebody else, then I was still with it. I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and really, really, really enjoyed her performance. I really liked Dylan Galula. Ray Nicholson was creepy. I did love the scene where it's leading up to the accident that she and he had.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking, like, seeing his face and like, why is he so disconcerting? And it's because he's Jack Nicholson's son, and he's basically doing Jack Napier when he's smiling.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the opening scene with Kyle Gallner trying to get the Russian guy to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And how is he going to get away? Is he going to be able to do it? Nope. He's the guy from the trailer. So, yeah, I overall really enjoyed this. It's not one of my top 10 or anything, but I thought it was better done than the first one.
I'll agree with that, and I think stylistically, I think Finn Parker looks like a much better director based off of this movie than the first movie. I think he's got talent. I think he's got a talent for staging. I especially the concert scenes, the costumes, all of that was just exceptional stuff. Truly, really, really good stuff. But again, I think just building the narrative the way they did, it does not work for me. It does not work for me. And I'm not opposed to unhappy endings. I'm not opposed to even this character that I really did like a lot, ending up where she ends up. My issue is how we get there. How you get to your ending, your downer ending, matters. And I don't think this movie got there in the best way. I thought it cheated to get there.
Fair enough. Now, would you rather watch a concert movie with Skye Riley or M. Night Shyamalan's daughter?
Oh, this one's way better than that. Yeah. Trap is funnier, but it doesn't intend to be.
Well,
Although
I said
if they'd allowed Skye Riley to turn into a detective at the end, that would have been fun. And if we're gonna work Haley Mills in somewhere, we've got gold here. But no,
I mean, Haley Mills could have played her grandmother,
great grandmother.
Haley Mills is not that much, that
she's in her 80s.
Yeah, but Rosemarie DeWitt is in her 50s.
Well,
so
it's on the line. It's on the line. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, well, I liked it.
I'm negative on this one. Again, I think that Naomi Scott is going to go on and do incredible things, and I even think that Finn Parker has a chance to do, if he can get away from this now. He needs to step away from this and do something else, and show he can do something else. Then I'll buy in. I'm prepared to buy in on him as a good director. But I need something other than this now, for sure.
One thing I'm going to need Naomi Scott to play Amelia Clark's younger sister. Because with her blonde hair, she looked so much like her. It kept getting in my head that was her. And she looked so completely different with short hair that I had no idea I had ever even seen her before. Much less, I did not watch Aladdin. I did not watch Charlie's Angels. But even then, I don't know if I would have recognized her.
No, those are forgettable films, and this one is much more suited to her talent. Also, the thing about her hair was a wonderful detail. That was a terrific. It didn't feel like just actorly business, which a lot of times something like that. She has this tick of pulling out her hair when she's upset or anxious, and it explains why she went from having long hair to a very short, stylish cut, because she was doing a lot of this thing where she was pulling her hair out, which is a good detail for a character who is a drug addict, who wasn't dealing with addiction. It's a great detail. And it didn't feel like just an actor doing business. Like, I need to do something. I need to have something in my hands. Like, Dustin Hoffman does that bullshit all the time. It fucking pisses me off. It's just, he's just doing something because he needs to be acting all the time. This didn't feel like that. This felt like a detail that sprung from her character's past.
I'm going to say something really mean, and it's not about her, but
Okay.
it's about Felicity Jones.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a more beautiful Felicity Jones. If Felicity Jones and Amelia Clark had a baby, she would be Naomi Scott. Because sometimes I just, when there are times where she gives me the Felicity Jones look, like face, and then there are times when she gives me Amelia Clark, and I know that she's her own person. But I did like the detail about the hair. I like the fact that she was wearing Kristen Stewart's hair from Charlie's Angels, because I think she looks really good that way. So
incredibly flattering look for her, which is very lucky considering the tick that she had pulling out her own hair. Yeah. She's lucky she looks good with short hair.
Exactly. So
really worked out for her. That's another thing, though, that I do. Not to stay on this movie much longer, but the theming related to drug addiction doesn't work with that hopeless ending either, because it just makes it feel that much more mean-spirited, almost. Like, hey, drug addicts, you have no hope either.
Well, no, see, that's the thing, is I think that I saw it the opposite way, because she has so much hope that she's overcoming her drug addiction by the coping mechanisms that she's given. And
if the smile demon is a stand-in for drug addiction, though, then it's just telling you that there's no hope.
Well, no, see, I didn't see it that way at all. I thought it was something completely separate in my mind. I did not see it as a stand-in for drug addiction. I saw it as she's overcome that thing. Maybe she can overcome this as well.
I did not see that.
Well, you're an idiot. Wait, I should say it like Dwight from The Office. Idiot.
We so rarely disagree on this show. This is good. This is good for the show, that we don't feel the same way about a movie for once.
Yeah, I'm glad to be right.
And now the show will end.
Well, now that you say it,
fuck you, Jeff. I'm done. No. What a stupid way to do a show that would be.
That would be.
Let's talk about The Ring. It's our classic this week because thematically or similarly plotted, you essentially have 7 days with the Smile Demon. You get 7 days with the Ring tape. You watch the tape, you get a phone call, you're dead in 7 days. That's the premise of The Ring. It's a clever premise, and a kind of clever movie that I still have a hard time liking. I think it's better than Smile 2. I think that's for me. I'm on that. I think Bob has said that he loves this movie, that he loves the Ring movies. I've been always just kind of ambivalent about them, and watching it this time didn't really change that ambivalence. So you've got the premise there. You've got the tape, 7 days. You've got a group of young teenage girls who end up getting cursed with it and dying. One of them is related to Naomi Watts' character, who investigates, finds the tape, watches the tape. Obviously, she now has 7 days. Her ex-husband, Martin Henderson, also watches the tape, and her son, who happens to have some psychic powers to him, also watches the tape. And well, she's got to figure out a way to save their lives by trying to investigate where the tape comes from, where this curse comes from, and what it is that actually happens to you after 7 days. And at the very least, this movie comes up with a clever way to continue this franchise, even though it does feel like sequel bait.
Yeah, I had not seen this movie since theaters. Um, I guess I'd probably watched it on video maybe 20 years ago or something. Um, yeah, it was weird seeing Naomi Watts before she was Naomi Watts. I mean, this is kind of the movie that made her Naomi Watts. Um, but yeah, it was like I I I guess I having seen it before, I telegraphed everything right away.
Hmm.
But I also feel like I remember kind of doing that in the theater
Right.
where I was like, okay, this is, these are the beats it has to hit, and it feels like it's going to hit every one of those beats, and it did. I even started watching The Ring 2,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of just stopped because I was like, I don't know if I care enough anymore.
Right.
Uh,
I I
not,
I definitely fell out on the Ring 2 right away.
yeah. I watched Ryan Merriman and Emily Van Camp, and then I was like, when Naomi Watts and went to the back of the ambulance and saw Ryan Merriman and had the same face as her ex husband. I was like, okay, you know what? I don't think I need to finish this movie. I don't think there's any reason to finish.
Yeah. I think it's a good looking movie, and I do think Gore Verbinski is a terrific director. I think he's gone on to show
Mhm.
that he's more of a technician, like a Carpenter style director, not necessarily a guy who's interested or even capable of big broad themes and resonant type movies dramatically or emotionally. But he is a great technician, and he knows how to put together a mechanical plot in a way that is entertaining and compelling. And I do think this movie is that. It's also very easy to watch. It's a very easy watch. It's breezy. It goes by quickly. It's got well motivated jump scares, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing. It's pretty tightly plotted. I think it earns the jump scares, whereas a lot of movies just don't. They're just jump scare for jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I saw somebody criticize Smile 2 for jump scares. I'm like, no, they were just smash cuts to other stuff that was going on in her head.
Mm-hmm.
Really, there weren't a lot of jump scares.
Right.
This one has a few, but it earns every one of them.
I think the only thing that's missing from The Ring, they needed one of those comic relief characters that could have just
Yeah,
done something funny, like where they're kind of adjacent to danger constantly throughout, and they make funny asides that can lift the tone just a little bit to keep it from being so oppressive.
Peter Jacobson.
Not exactly. He's not exactly sunshine.
No, I mean him as an actor. He's always got that kind of nebbishy, tick to him whenever he's on like Law and Order or something like that. It's kind of that, kind of that. Wow, I'm just kind of asking questions here, that kind of guy. And I think that would have,
I was thinking
somebody
more.
like that.
I was thinking more along the lines of like a Philip Seymour Hoffman from Twister kind of character.
Fair enough.
Little broad, little funny, but serious what he needs to be. When the Twister is actually happening.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Yeah.
I do think I thought Samara was a good creation. I thought there was a solid creature to use. I thought they had a good idea with that is well executed. I don't think that's a character or even this premise that holds up in a sequel, and certainly I think that's proven out that this movie does not hold up in sequels. But for this one movie, it's not a bad idea, and it's not poorly made at all.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that we get an explanation and a, I guess, a more or less a defeat of Samara in the first movie. Um, that kind of a climax doesn't lend itself to a sequel. And I as much as I liked the first one, I never even finished the second one. I don't remember even seeing it in the theater, so who knows?
I mean, but Samara's not really defeated because they have to continually make more tapes in order to stay alive.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean, as far as Naomi, what's it? God,
Naomi Watts.
Naomi Watts. Thank you. I kept saying Naomi Glenn, and I don't know why. As much as Naomi Watts' character is concerned, she saved her and her son. So to bring her back instead of just a whole other, just kind of a reboot,
mm-hmm.
It didn't make any sense to me. So.
Yeah, I thought it lended itself more to a tragic ending than a hopeful one. I think that the tape duplicating thing felt like sequel bait.
And then okay, just let's say that you keep duplicating tapes, and this kind of goes on throughout the world or whatever. Okay,
mm-hmm.
What happens when they make the switch to DVD? Do you have to part a DVD recorder until VHS comes back in 2024? I'm just asking questions.
What is Samara's role in the streaming universe?
Oh God, could you imagine? How do you do that? She don't everybody. She can't.
Don't worry, we're all safe. The Samara's on Apple TV. We'll never find out she's there.
She's on. David Zaslav got a hold of her and canceled her before she ever got on screen. Maybe he's right. Maybe she was Batgirl.
That's how you defeat the Ring. Is David Zaslav ends it. We're gonna tax right up on Samara, so she's done.
Yeah, we're putting this new tape on Max. No, we're not.
Oh man, that's the scam. We figured it out. Samara is on Apple TV, and the reason is that they're not telling anybody because they don't want anybody to see it and get infected.
Exactly. David Zaslav is the real hero. Said nobody ever.
All right, Jeff. I know you have an appointment to get to, so we can wrap things up here.
Sounds good.
We're talking about Venom, the new Venom movie coming out this weekend. So we'll be talking about Tom Hardy and that particular film franchise, which apparently might be ending, which I think is a good thing. I think 3 movies is probably way too much for that.
Yeah, I think the second one was too much,
but I'm fine with it as long as they're serious about bringing it to an end. I'm kind of okay with it.
Well, I guess we'll see, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, if they keep Venom on Earth and they continue and throw in some sequel bait, which they very well could. Nobody wants to give up something that's making money, so it'll be interesting to see where they're going with that. We're also getting Conclave with Ralph Fiennes, which is getting incredible buzz. Might be a potential Best Picture candidate, so we'll be watching that. And a movie called Your Monster is coming out this weekend, which is not one I have seen the trailer for this. And the trailer is kind of interesting. This woman discovers that there's a monster hiding in her apartment and that it keeps threatening to kill her, but also they start to fall in love.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a horror comedy, and it's got Tommy Dewey, who was just recently in Saturday Night. Tommy Dewey is a terrifically funny actor who totally can pull off this exact character. So this one's got me very intrigued.
Oh, I hope to check that out.
Oh, and Melissa Barrera, of course, I should note. Melissa Barrera is the star.
Yeah. Okay, I have her. I'm like, it sounds familiar. And then you said her. Yeah, okay. All right, I've heard of that. So.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a new Trump documentary that we're not going to talk about. So there's that.
Nope. We're going to forget about him until after the election. And if we have to speak of him again, hopefully it's his obituary. I didn't say that out loud.
Satire.